Hi, I'm Tom Stevenson and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a professor of construction management and I want you to learn faster, better, smarter. So in this session, which is the start of a new semester, we're past the pandemic and we're into a new semester, so I want students to start off right. And I've been getting a lot of questions already on things about, I'm having trouble learning this or I don't see this. So I want to try to clarify things and give you something to sort of chew on and think about. All right, so we're going to be covering in this session here habits. We'll talk about forming good study habits. Calendar, knowing when things are due. You gotta kind of start with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey would say. Nobody takes notes anymore, it seems. So let's see if we can get some action going on there. We're distracted. We'll talk about focus. We'll talk about some study techniques that work for you. After all, everybody's a little bit different. We're not all the same. We're not all cut from exactly the same cloth. And get to know your professor before you need to know your professor. This is always helpful too. I really enjoy when students kind of come up at break time or at the end of the class and ask a few questions, or you get to know them a little bit better. I do my best to try to get to know students by, trying to find out why they're here in this particular program at the beginning. But oftentimes it's difficult to do that when you've got large sections. It can be challenging, but I would say you can do a lot because not everybody does this. So it's not like 100 people swarm the professor at break time. You might have 5 or 6. And so why not be one of the 5 or 6? Multiple choice quizzes and tests. A little bit about them and what they do and how you can better utilize them and to perform a little bit better. I've got a separate video. I got a lot of separate videos on this stuff that you can check on my YouTube channel on the playlist. Where I've got for study habits and learning. And then a new one this year that I didn't have before because it wasn't really a thing. Even going back last year, ChatGPT or other AI useful tools, these things are becoming sort of more prevalent in browsers and other areas. So it's not just necessarily ChatGPT, but I'll use that because that's the one I kind of use myself. All right, so let's just go. So habits. Well, this is what's going to form the foundation for your success. You already had a goal that you wanted to get into this program, whatever it may be, or you're learning this new thing in this particular course. So now it's about, well, how do I set myself up? And so, of course, goals help you target what you're trying to achieve. You want to get an A in this course, you want to successfully complete it. Hopefully, one of the main goals is that you really want to learn the outcomes, whatever the outcomes are for this course and beyond, because that's where you can practice it in the real world. Like I said, I'm a professor of construction management, and construction's an unforgiving industry. What I mean by that is, it doesn't matter if you have a diploma, it might get you the job, but if you really don't know anything, it won't keep you the job. And so we want you to learn the material that you can apply it and that you can be successful in your careers. That's what I want for you. So it is a fresh start. So it doesn't matter if you've always had difficulty with this. It doesn't matter in the past. This is a fresh start. And also don't be too hard on yourself if you've had issues with that. With work and time, you get better at it. And so that's another aspect of construction is continuous improvement. If we talk about lean construction, well, you're going to continuously improve yourself. And so you can look at how to develop habits. Make it as effortless as possible. Make it easy for yourself. If you look at studying like it's this awful thing, then you know what? It's going to be this awful thing. Start thinking about, well, how does this work in the industry? How can I use this? Why are we learning this? What's the point of this? And this can be very helpful when you see where it's used. And even if your professor didn't tell you, that doesn't prevent you from finding out information, right? So you can always take things that are discussed and you can Google them, but we'll also talk about ChatGPT and how that can be useful. Where to study? I don't want to skip over. It can be fun. It can be fun. It actually can. You can actually enjoy the journey. right? It's not just a drudgery to get a diploma or drudgery to pass this class. It's like, this can be fun. This can be interesting. And it's also cumulative. It takes a while. You know, I see students that, you know, oh, I'm going to miss this class. You miss a class here or there. Generally, that's not earth-shattering. But you make it a habit to miss classes, then it is, because it's cumulative. You've got all these holes in your knowledge. I remember one student came up to me one time and was complaining, you never talk about dealing with subcontractors. And I worked last summer and I had so much trouble with subcontractors. How come you didn't do a class on dealing with subcontractors? And so he caught me at the wrong time. I had my laptop. I just opened it and I said, what's that class? What's the title of it? Dealing with subcontractors. Where were you? Where were you that day? And he kind of was quiet. Right? You can't blame somebody else if you're not there, if you're not doing the work. You know, well, you can, but it's not going to hold water and it's not going to help you. Really, you want to help yourself and not blame other people for things that are missing. Fill the holes yourself. You can do that. I know you can do that. I do it when I take a course all the time. If I take a course, there's always something, yeah, but what about this? And then I do a little bit more research on it. Where to study and when to study. You can have a habit of, some people have schedules that are pretty tight, but you can look for them. You know, do I get a block of time, even if it's like 5:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the morning, that's 2 hours or an hour and a half, right? That I can actually study somewhere. Or maybe you're an evening person. Is there, you know, a block of time from 10 to 12 that I can study? I know I did my degrees part-time while I was working, all of them, and I definitely was the nighttime person for the studying. I found that a little bit hard because you do get tired, so early in the morning is better, I think, but it depends on your schedule. I had young kids and everything at the time, and so my studying was pretty much from 10 o'clock to 12 and 1. And that's when I found my little sort of alcove in a spot that I had that I went to every time during that time. It could be a chair in the corner, it could be a chair in the kitchen table if nobody else is around at that time. Wherever is your little sanctuary that you have. It could be a coffee shop. Some people can study and do work in a coffee shop. Not everybody can. So if you're not one of those ones, then you look for where you can get that quiet time. And time block it. Time block planning is where you actually put it in your calendar and you say, I'm going to do this at this time. And if you can, do it every day. It doesn't necessarily have to be like for 3 hours. It might be for 15 minutes some days. But get into that habit that at this time, this is what I do. And it's often just getting it started that's really, really important. Getting that first bit started and then keeping to it. Is helpful. I'm mentioning this thing on habits, and this is the new semester. Every time I go through this at the beginning of a new year with students and YouTube, etc., there was this community center that they were building it, probably about 2 blocks from my house, and it's been under construction for about 4.5 years probably because of COVID and slowdowns in construction. Interesting, one of my students was a site super on this project, so it was kind of nice to see her and see how well that she's doing on this type of work. But I was watching when the opening was, right? And so this has a beautiful swimming pool in it, And I always swam prior to COVID, but since COVID, I kind of lost that habit. I picked up other habits and replaced it for my exercise. But I wanted to get back to swimming because my daughter likes open water swimming. And so I looked at when it was going to open. I was away the day it opened, but the second day I was back. And right away, I started a membership so I could be swimming. And my goal was to swim 3 times a week. I wasn't swim every day because my schedule won't necessarily hit that with the schedule here, but I could manage 3 days a week. And so I time blocked that. And one of my goals was to open water swim. And so, this is me after about 2 months of practice doing about a kilometer open water swim with my daughter. She's videoing me. I guess she's floating in the water with her cell phone. But if you build that habit, like there's no way I could do that kilometer swim before having probably at least 15 or 20 sessions to get myself back up. I was a pretty good swimmer back, used to do triathlons and stuff, but it doesn't matter. You got to build this habit. You got to get it going. And I swam this morning just before this video. So it's really nice. I've got it sort of structured. I've got a bag. It's all ready in the morning. You pick it up. It's right by the door. You just go out the door. You go for a nice long walk before I do this. Then I end up there and then I just walk home. So you got to build it into a system. That's what I'm talking about. Goals, systems. Goal to swim open water. Build a system that you can do it. Same thing for studying. It doesn't change. It's the same idea. Calendar and due dates, and basically values. Like you need to have some reminders. When are things due? If you're doing a full program, there's a lot of stuff that becomes due. You might have to do weekly quizzes in certain courses. You might have major project assignments and tests. If you can map that stuff out, because most times there's course outlines and you have a pretty good idea when things are happening, then that's going to make it much less likely that you're going to miss stuff. And also understanding sort of the values of things. Sometimes, we do get overwhelmed with stuff and you might make a decision. It's okay if you make a decision as long as it's an educated decision. I can't get this quiz done this week. How much is it worth? Oh, it's worth 2 marks or it's worth 2.5%. It's not good, but I can't get it done, right? I just don't have the time. Or is it multiple choice? Well, I'd be better to just guess at it than not do it at all. Quickly do it and do my best. Maybe I'll get 1.5 marks on it. That might be worth my 5 minutes of doing it. But really what you want to be doing is backing it up. These are the quizzes. This is from the class. Ask the teacher in class. If your learning management system, because that's what we all use these days, Blackboard, D2L is a new one that we just switched in our college too. It may show you in your calendar on that what the course is and what the quizzes are. But if not, use something like Google Calendar to put in those dates and reminders for you. And that makes your life a lot easier. And if you're time blocking, you're studying too, you got a one place that you can go to for everything that you need to do. And then you can see empty spots, or you can map out empty spots where you can have fun, go out with your friends, that sort of stuff. It's organizing yourself. Note-taking. Well, I find it's really, really helpful to take notes. I take notes all the time. I was just had a class yesterday where I was introducing myself. I was having everybody introduce themselves, and I was taking notes, their background, this and that, because I can always refer back to it when I'm teaching a class, right? When I was taking a class, I'd always be taking notes. You got to have some sort of system for how you do it. Now, some people love their iPad, and students are using, basically an iPencil and stuff like that. Whatever the system, definitely writing it down can be very, very helpful from a memory perspective, as opposed to typing it in, but no system is not a good system. So figure that out and take some notes down. And if the teacher's doing stuff on the whiteboard or the blackboard, either take a picture with your cell phone of it or write down and take a picture of it, because then it can, the writing connects it. Or if you find that's difficult when you're studying, just take a picture at the end when the teacher finishes the notes, and then tie it to any other notes that you want to add on to it. But have something. There's always clues that are given. If you have a system, sometimes teachers say this might be on a test, and then you make a note of it. Focus. Well, this is the other distraction. Everybody's distracted, right? Multitasking doesn't work. Do one thing at a time. If you're going to time block things, focus on one course, do that course, and then move on to the next. Don't context shift between things at the same time. Also, don't contact switch, from your cell phone to your iPad to the TV. That's one of the reasons why notes are pretty good, because the problem is if you're using your cell phone, it's also distracting you. You're in a class, there's that aspect of it. If you're going to focus on something, turn off your cell phone, put it into airplane mode, set it up if there's somebody that needs to get through to you, that they can get through to you, but others can't. There's tips and technologies that you can use to help you. There's there's the Pomodoro technique. I talk about that more in another video, but it's basically short bursts of intense study, focus, and then relaxing for 5-10 minutes. For like 25 minutes of focus, 5 to 10 minutes relax. 25 minutes of focus, 5 to 10 minutes relax, right? But when I mean focus, I mean focus. I don't mean context switching, because that takes so much more time that you're wasting. So we've got to learn to be more efficient at this so we can also enjoy our lives. Everything is, learning all this stuff is difficult. And it's not that I want you to be more productive so you can do a million more things and then you still don't have time for anything. You gotta be more productive so you just don't waste time, and then you can enjoy yourself. You can go out with your friends and do different things. I tell people, my students, if you're trying to study and time block and watch TV, texting, and all of this stuff, Twitter, at the same time, it's going to take you forever to do a simple assignment or a simple quiz. You're much better to focus on one thing. And then if there's something else you want to do, focus on that. And figure out what's the priority. Think about the end in mind. Is this really a priority? Is this going to help me in my future? Or is it just kind of giving me a dopamine rush for that moment in time? So these are things to consider. Learn study techniques that work for you. So there's a lot more stuff here than what I can say in a 20-25 minute video. It's what works for you, and you can research. Well, you're already watching this, so I'm talking to the converted here, right? And you're still here, so that means that you're interested in improving yourself. So try things, experiment with things, but give them a good chance. Give them a good, like, not a week or something. Give them like 6 weeks of trying a different technique and see how that works. And a habit takes quite a while to instill. Like, I've been swimming in the summer now. I was just trying to figure it out. I think I've swam 35 times so far since about the second week of July. I still don't feel that this is a habit yet, but it is almost there. It's almost there where I just get up and it's just, I'm in flow with it. And that's what you want to try to do from that perspective. Get to know your professor before you need to know your professor. I find that I get students, the last 2 weeks, and I'm hearing about all these problems that they had during the semester, but it's kind of too late then. If you're having issues or problems or you need some support, the sooner the professor knows, the sooner they may be able to help you, give you some direction, give you some relief from that perspective. We talk in construction about delays and change in claim management, and we talk about getting relief in terms of time and relief in terms of money. Well, you won't get, well, actually, in a way, you get it in terms of time and money if you talk to somebody soon enough, because that means maybe they will give you a little extra leeway on an assignment or something, and you save the money of paying for the course next time, right? So we can always compare these things to the real world if we kind of look at it. I always remember one of my students during COVID that we were doing online, and we still do well, not too much at my college, but we still do I do a ton of online stuff. But if you want to stand out, right? If you want to stand out from the crowd, so whenever I'm doing sessions with industry professionals online, ask to put the camera on. If you put your camera on, you stand out. So in a group of people, if there's 20 people doing a session and 3 have their cameras on, guess what? You stand out. And so that's a good thing. And it also forces you to kind of look at the camera and not try to do 10 other things. Like, everybody knows why people don't want to have their camera on, because they don't want you looking at them doing all these other things, right? So it kind of puts pressure on you to pay attention, which, we all need little tools that can help us that way. Multiple choice questions. Now I have another video on multiple choice questions, so I'm just going to be sort of fairly light here, but if you have the opportunity to practice questions, practice them. You get used to it, you get into flow with it, it ingrains the topic with you. If you're studying for a certification like a PMP, a CM Lean, Project Management Professional, Certificate of Management in Lean Construction, a lot of these designations, they require you doing like pretty intense multiple choice tests for certification. You get used to it, but if you're studying for it and you've got the opportunity to do practice questions, or you have a textbook that has practice questions, do it. Do it, because that'll get you really ingrained in it. It's one thing to read passively things, it's another to actively do the questions. So questions also, they test breadth, which is a good thing. Think about too, if you've got a professor, how might they word the question? Put yourself in their shoes. So if you're going to have a test or something, how might they quiz you? Or what questions, how do they reference things? Try writing a few questions yourself. And that's always helpful, because that really gets you into the weeds of learning the topic. Now, when the answer says most correct, that means the answer doesn't just have to be correct, it has to be the most correct out of the 4 answers. Like some of these certifications, I mean, PMP, honestly, some of the answers, when I did that exam, some of the answers, they're like 40% correct, and then one answer is like 65% correct, I would say. And so you got to pick the one that's most correct, so it would be the 65% one. It's pretty close. So you got to really know where they're coming from. In that case, you have to know the Penn Book of Knowledge. In your case, you might have to know material from a textbook in the lecture from that perspective. So be careful of that. All of the above, not really the best way to ask questions. And sometimes it leads you that way, and it tends to be more correct more times than not. But you have crafty teachers that know that and purposely make sure it's not all of the above, even though they put all of the above. So you have to kind of look at things from their shoes and how they're doing things. Beware of not. So it reads the question, but there's a not in front of it. Then that's saying, well, which one of these is not correct, right? And people miss that and they put the correct one, which they get wrong. So you have to be kind of careful about that. So that means slow is smooth, smooth is fast when you answer multiple choice. And slow is smooth. Read the question, really understand what it's saying, take a breath, and don't answer the first question you see. Make sure you've looked at all the answers. Even if you see the correct one jumping out at you, still read them all in case they're all pretty close to being correct and it says all of the above, then all of the above is the correct answer. So keep that in mind and you get used to it. So the last one here is ChatGPT and AI tools. You know what? You're going to have some people that say don't use them, this, that, and the other. The world is changing, and I have not seen that you can stop this train. You know, as much as it might be to the chagrin of some teachers around, especially language teachers for now, basically it is a big part of how we do things now, and it's getting to be a bigger part every day. So basically use them to fill gaps and quickly answer questions. So if you've got any gaps in your knowledge, it's really helpful, I find. So if there's something that you're doing, or even me when I'm preparing for something, it's like, what is this? And I'll enter it into ChatGPT. I've done a video on that before as well. And that can help to fill the voids. Sometimes Googling stuff, you get a million sites and it's not really answering your specific question, and it takes you hours to try to find where it is. I find that it's a lot quicker with ChatGPT, but you gotta remember a lot of the AI tools, they're kind of locked from 2021, the end of 2022. And so, or 21, I think it is 2021. So stuff that's been happening more recently, it won't really help you with. And so if it's something to do with codes that's more recent, building codes and that sort of thing, it will likely miss it. And it's not 100% on some of these things, but it definitely clarifies things quickly. But don't use it to do the work for you, right? Because then you're not learning nothing. So use it as a tool to help you and to sort of get in the weeds, to fill voids, to clarify things. Don't assume everything is correct, because it's not. You know, when I use it, I filter out. Right now, I would say, you know, in the kind of things that I do, it's maybe about 70% correct. And that may change, you know, in a year from now, maybe it's going to be 80%. In 2 years, maybe 85. And you know how it goes, right? It gets better and better and better because it's learning. But definitely don't misrepresent yourself. Don't try to use it as a tool to cheat and just get better marks by misrepresenting yourself, because you don't learn anything. And as I started out this, right, when we're the construction industry, if you're a construction industry student, it's not very forgiving. So you want to really know your stuff. And that's what this is about, building better habits. So I hope you have a wonderful semester, and let me know how it goes. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if anything sort of tweaked with you. Leave it in the comments. You know, this is something that you're going to try, and then come back if it really is working well. I'd like the feedback. So I'm Tom Stevenson, wishing you a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Have a great semester. Bye for now.